I do. So something that this group should really be aware of is AC Transit is going through some major route changes right now. So they're kind of like in the last part of the planning stages and the final approval. I think there's some opportunities to bring much better AC Transit service to Emeryville, which will have a direct impact on relieving the loading on the Emery-Go-Round. There are ways that things can complement. There are specific areas that I think are important are the towers. I think it's possible to bring AC Transit to the towers in the peninsula and also to the marketplace. So something that really should be on people's radar, and it's late in the game. So I think there's some urgency to this.
Okay, any other comments?
What about the Warriors?
That's a question, not a comment.
A cheer.
Okay, we go to the minutes from last meeting. Does anyone have any comments to them, or does someone want to move to approve those minutes?
I'll move to approve them.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition to approving them? No. So those are approved. Okay, so Ronnie, you can cover.
Sure. So we do have a new director appointment. Those of you that were here last week realized we had a board of 6, which is the lowest we've been in a long time. So I did reach out to one of our vacant corporate members and was able to convince them to appoint somebody to serve on their behalf. And we have Tim Bacon here from City Center Realtor Partners, representing the public market and actually East Bay Shopping Center until at which time we have the new corporate members appointed next year. Welcome.
Welcome, Tim.
Okay.
So maybe we can, maybe the
yeah.
other directors should introduce themselves. So why don't we start with you, Francis?
Francis Collins.
I'm Melinda Baker at Griffles.
Colin Westbourne from the Barnes.
I'm Jeff Sears with Wareham.
Jennifer Nuttles, B Street.
Gina Munn, Emery-Go-Round, NV Transportation. Laura Corona, NV Transportation.
Okay, let's get to the business items.
Can we do the executive report first?
Oh, yes,
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
I'm kicking it to you, Ronnie.
What's that?
The vote, remember I have to.
Yes. Well, I think now that we've got a quorum, you can, if you need to leave at any time, you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
I approve of everything.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the minutes.
That's a way to get business done around here. Okay.
We better not have anything controversial.
Okay, so first, I'd like to have a staff recognition. Gina Munn from MV Transit is here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Gina. I just want to recognize her for 3 years ago we transitioned leadership to MV to run our operation, and Gina had taken over as the operations manager and has been a key staff managing the day-to-day operations of the Emery-Go-Round. Any given time of day, Gina is handling a multitude of priorities and has poured her heart into the Emery-Go-Round. And we're very pleased with her performance over the 3 years, and she's appreciated and respected by everyone that she works with.
Thank you.
So to show our appreciation, we have a letter of recognition to Miss Gina and a little performance bonus. We want to thank you for your 3 years of service to the Emery-Go-Round.
Appreciate it. Oh, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Next executive director's item. Some of you don't know this, but several years ago in 2005, we had a RM2 grant for some real-time signage that was to be installed at the BART station. Well, the project was derailed because of the BART redevelopment project. And now I'm working with BART on the permitting, and it can be a little bit challenging, but the thing that got my attention was that Emeryville TMA will be responsible for maintaining the signage in perpetuity. It's about $12,000 for the signage materials, and if it was damaged, then the Emeryville TMA would be responsible for replacing the equipment. And the grant that we had previously received would not cover those costs because we have like a one-time reimbursement for this grant money. I'm just looking to the TMA, the board, for some direction on whether or not to continue to proceed with the LED signage project, understanding the risks of the cost commitment from the TMA for maintenance of this signage.
So just kind of remind us through the signage, it's going to be like sort of Nick's bus arriving. and-
Exactly, it's those LED kind of light signages, 2-line signs that would be mounted in the bus shelters. There are 2 bus shelters there. As I mentioned, the cost for the installation and the permitting and all of that would be covered by the RM2 grant allocation, which we're trying to accomplish.
How much is the grant, Ron?
Just what's that? The
How
grant
much
is
is it?
$105,000, so it's far more than the signage costs. And the city's been working with trying to figure out if there's other uses that we could use that grant money for.
So it just doesn't cover the ongoing repair and maintenance?
Exactly.
Is there a way we can buy that service from the sign provider, sort of build it into the purchase price or something?
We could talk to NextBus about maybe a maintenance agreement that we could pay into in the beginning, but we need to determine whether NextBus is going to be the way we go from here on forward, which is another thing that I'm not quite sure about. So there are other real-time information providers that are out there now, and there are some sophisticated systems out there. NextBus is doing a great job, but there are some challenges with their equipment and their program that we face. So I'm not.
Ron, is there a way to buy
committed.
signage that isn't unique to a information provider? Because that's like hardware and then
Right.
there's software that tells it what to do, right?
Right, exactly. So you can, it is hardware, you can't probably transfer it to another, it's just programming the information into it. So I'm sure they have some chip they can put in there. So the signage can be transferable to another user, I would think. I haven't researched that, but.
Do we need electronic signage, or do we have on-time routes that are showing up when the
Well,
signs say they're going to show up?
The signs were really important before people had smartphones. People use the smartphones now, so that's another point. I mean, back in 2005 when this grant was issued, and the LED signage would have come in real handy because people weren't as engaged with their smartphone usage and the apps that are out there. So people generally do use their phones and their app.
Yeah, the tracking works pretty well.
Right. Yeah.
And we're running on time, essentially.
Right now, we're not actually until we update our schedules, so
Okay.
we definitely need the next bus right now.
But you're saying that with the phone, people have a way of knowing.
Yeah,
They
catch
do.
it when Nick's
Yes,
supposed to.
yeah.
Doing what
Just you
Nick's
do
bus
arrive.
was going to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what your question is just looking for feedback from us?
Feedback to say, do we even need the signage anymore? I mean, 10 years ago, it was a different, purpose. Now we can mount the signage, but we'd be responsible for maintaining it in perpetuity, so.
More public comment? I suggest you go to the BART board and see if they'll cover it. I mean, you're giving them $40,000 a day in revenue for passengers. I think they might want to cover it.
I think for me, it's a question of need. We don't know what the average maintenance looks like if
Yeah.
it does break down.
Right.
So what are we
Well, we
estimating?
pay an annual fee of about $550 for the APC service. And there's other fees associated with running the service, just maintaining the sign and providing the service to the sign.
So just turning it on.
Yeah, exactly. The wireless, kind of data that it's feeding to. The electricity is paid for by BART, so I'll give them that. They did run the conduit. They put everything in the sign. In the bus shelter so that we could connect to it, and they will pay for the electricity for it. We just have to, there's a lot of vandalism at BART, unfortunately.
I was gonna
And
bring that up, yeah.
yes, and that my bigger concern is that the sign gets bashed, it gets damaged, and then we have to either replace it or we have the option to just pull it out and not have it, at that time too. So
Does the sign serve as a marketing tool though?
no,
No, not at all.
no, it's really just your next bus will arrive. The Shell Mountain Power Route. It's a scrolling like LED red light sign.
So you're actually more in favor of removing them?
I'm in favor of, I'm actually not in favor of anything, but
Okay.
I realize the risk that BART's going to put on us to make sure that we maintain it and that we have to replace it if it's damaged. And
So
that is
it's
a
not,
cost.
it's not serving a functional tool because people use their smartphones.
Exactly.
It's not serving a marketing tool
Right.
because it's just there. So what tool is the sign serving?
If someone doesn't have a smartphone, then.
Really?
Then. I've been told there are people out there that don't.
But there
have
are
a
people
smartphone.
out there.
There are people out
Okay.
there
That
that.
population, so we
Yeah.
have to at least think
Right.
about it.
So
So,
then people that don't have a
so that
smartphone.
is the benefit of the sign.
Right.
So what we're
And
asking,
you don't have to
what
get your
we're.
phone out, it's right there, handy in the
And Ronnie, how
bus
much is
shelters.
this sign? You're saying we have
12,000.
105 grand, but someone's paying 12 of the 105? I mean, my recommendation would be figure out how to get $105,000 worth
Yeah.
of value, and maybe
Yeah, let's see that.
it would be nice to see if we could use that grant fully.
Right,
And then I'd probably feel more comfortable taking the risk of maintenance with it.
right.
You know, that just.
Another option that I'd like to look into is there's a system called Transit Screen, and they provide more of like a monitor, system that has other transit modes. BART would be on there, Emery-Go-Round schedule, Next Bus would be on there. All modes of transportation would be on there, whether Uber's around or whatever, and it would be.
Could you lease that to those other groups? I mean, could this be a revenue generator?
I would probably not recommend that sign at the MacArthur BART station just because of the risk of vandalism and damage, but I do think that we could use it in areas throughout the city, that would, hotel lobbies or,
I feel like that's a nice promotion.
Somewhere Bay Street where you've got, access to the systems around here. So I have a person that I'm working with, his name is David University, and he works with Transit Screen, and he's offered to come present. My concern is I'm just getting engaged with this process. I'd like him to come present to the board on the materials that are there, but I'm getting a lot of push from MTC to get this grant money spent by the first of the year.
Is it specifically for sign? Is it specifically for
in all fairness, it's been 2005 when we got the allocation, so it's been 10 years.
What is the grant exactly for? Is it for signage?
It's for real-time signage at the MacArthur BART station.
It's actually there. So if you don't put the sign up, you lose the grant money.
Exactly, but I think that there's ways to maybe possibly, we're still using it for the real-time signage, and we could, have it in other places throughout the city. So I think there's a better way to spin it because we're providing, the information through a real-time tracking, system.
Well, I would make the recommendation that we're not fully aware of all the different possibilities at this time.
Right.
So wouldn't the next step be for you to research some of these other possibilities?
So I can research this with, first I would research whether or not we could do this with the grant money. That's going to be the push to get this done faster. If they can't transfer the money for the use of this transit screen throughout locations throughout the city, then I would have the presentation come, the guy presented, and we would just be on our own schedule for getting this kind of thing implemented throughout the city.
So what are you asking of us as board members right now?
Whether or not we want to pursue the Next Bus sign, LED signage in the bus shelter, or look for other options.
Does it have to be at the bus shelter? Because most of the people
it just says MacArthur BART station.
Most people getting the bus are coming off the BART.
Right.
So it would be a lot safer if
right.
it was. I'd be a lot less worried about damage if it was
in the plaza by the
exactly. Most people are coming down, coming off the trains, wondering, well, I have to run to get the bus. So I think if it was right there,
okay.
I could see the benefit of that.
Right, and then perhaps we can put transit screen there.
Yeah.
So okay. Yes.
What if we do like a clear casing? So worst case scenario, we would have to clean the casing.
Right. We could do that. And they etch the casing sometimes.
People are a hot mess.
They are, unfortunately. The bus shelters have been damaged so much already, and they're brand new. So I do think the idea of having it closer to the pay gates where BART people are, present.
You have money to put electrical and all that stuff in.
If the grant's $100,000, yeah, exactly. So what I will do is I will try to advance like the research of this transit screen. Again, this is just new information. I just met with this guy over the phone a month ago, and so and I'll try to do what I can to extend the time with the grant.
Well, so what I would say, Ronnie, is I don't hear anyone saying that $12,000 sign is make or break, and it's just going to be a hassle,
right?
Because it will be damaged,
right?
So it may have a continuing liability for us in money, but it's also just a hassle, right? So what I hear is people don't care much about that, but if you can do something much bigger with the grant,
right?
We're probably mostly comfortable in you figuring out how to do that. Because if there's a time sensitivity.
Do you need a motion?
No, I don't need a motion. Okay. I think we're not authorizing or approving anything. I'm just looking for board direction. This has been a direction we've been going for 10 years, and now I'm recommending that we change our direction.
So I just said that 10 years is a long time, and it might be that we need to question the need itself, not what the implementation is. And I don't hear anybody here saying like, oh, that's a strong need.
Right.
So if you can look into it and see if there's actually some reason why this is a driver.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, with grants, it's typically, it's been approved this way. We're administrators, we want to get the money out, and it may be lost, right? Yeah. So if she could figure out how to spend
Right.
50, 100 grand of someone else's money in a proper way.
Right.
Well, in a way that brings benefit, not
Yeah.
just to spend it for
Right.
the sake of spending it.
Right, exactly. And I think that's kind of circling around. I think what I've seen at the transit screen is far more sophisticated and could provide a better benefit than these just LED signs.
For a broader set.
Right, exactly.
Any other questions?
Sorry, there was a question.
Oh, sorry, John.
So, being a transit rider and coming out of the BART, it's like really confusing as to where the Emery-Go-Round bus is. I'm somebody that carries a smartphone, but it's like to fumble through that, to sign in. I should be able to walk up and see when my bus is arriving. I think that's a really important thing. I think it's one of the things our transit system fails on now. I would totally support the idea of having a more sophisticated screen in more of a sheltered area that's closer. So when you exit the gates, you look up, you see that here's my on-time arrival information, and it can provide maybe some wayfinding that says go in this direction. So.
Right. And we'll work with Bob to get better wayfinding then perhaps as well. So, okay, thank you. And the last thing, just to give a little update, at the last meeting there was some discussion on the bike share program for Emeryville. I've been in coordination with the Marcy Green Hunt with the city, and it sounds like the BPAC meeting was held the first week of November, and they have not yet started discussing site evaluation for bike share. They're just kind of going through and solidifying the NTC contract and you know, the kind of the schedule, rollout schedule for the bike share program. So we'll continue to stay engaged with that process as the city goes through trying to identify site locations for bike share programs. And that is all for my executive director's report.
Why don't you take us to the budget?
All right. At the last meeting, the budget was presented. I did make one minor modification, and that is to call out the estimated. So for those of you that weren't in attendance, this budget kind of forecasts our costs for the next year. The PBID revenue has already been set and established in the new PBID management plan. So we're working with that and showing how we're going to spend that money. Just to quickly go down through some of the line items, I'm proposing to trade in the El Dorado transit coaches that we have due to the high volume of maintenance issues that we continue to experience, and acquire 4 cutaway shuttles in the beginning of the year. And possibly, if the budget allows, at the end of the year, we'll keep monitoring this line item, we can maybe acquire another 2016 cutaway towards the end of the year. I've increased maintenance to account for the increased fleet size I'm proposing. I've increased the operations contract to show a 15 to 20% increase in operating hours, plus the addition of a full-time assistant to Ms. Gina, the operations manager, so she can actually take a vacation. And then I've got fuel increased as well to account for the increased service hours. Communications, we've got the next bus system and driver cell phones, that's standard, and then the operating costs. We held off the bus signage project, the bus stop signage project, because we are looking at possible new route changes, and we weren't sure how those routes were going to impact the signage because stop routes were listed on there, and I didn't want to have to put this out and 3 months later go out and change the signage again. So that's on hold, and I anticipate doing that at the beginning of the year once the new service plan is approved. The service contract also accounts, all the professional services contract account for an increase in services. And we've got the occupancy, just the standard items that we normally see on here. Excuse me. We do carry a pilot project and research budget of $25,000. This is just for the TMA to explore other kind of programs, maybe possible applications. There's a lot of communication apps out there right now for to enhance transit services. This is just kind of a placeholder for us to research some new items of that nature. And then at the bottom, so previously we would show the TMA, the PBID funding, there would be a negative item up top to offset some of the uncollectible amounts, which would cover items that the city doesn't necessarily pursue collection of, the school district, post office, and we don't pursue collection from AC Transit because of our fueling arrangement with them, so the benefit to us there, we have not in the past.
When you say we don't have
don't-
collection power.
Exactly.
The city does.
Yes, yes,
Right.
exactly.
We aren't making any of these choices.
No.
We'd be happy if
Right.
everyone paid.
Right.
They choose not to.
They choose not to. The ETMA the AC transit arrangement's a little bit different. We are getting a benefit. The ETMA is getting a benefit by not enforcing collection because they're allowing us to use their facility within the city boundaries to fuel all of our vehicles. And we have a very fair fueling price with them. So it's been a good partnership. In addition, we have possible delinquencies. So people don't pay their property tax bills, we don't get the assessments. So the $75,000 here is to, it's now shown as a cost below, and there's a reason for that. We have to replenish, the ETMA cash reserve is going to have to cover the cost of any delinquencies or uncollectible assessments. So we're going to have to constantly be replenishing our cash reserve to cover those delinquencies and shortfalls. The reason why it's shown down as a cost below is because we want to show it as cost to the TMA so that we maximize our benefit for this general benefit contribution, which is a percentage of operations cost. So that's why it's shown down below. We also, go ahead.
In English, we get more money from the city of Emeryville by characterizing it this way.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Exactly. We also have a deposit into our cash reserve to replenish what we've kind of absorbed over the years of our cash reserve. So if you skip down to the last table there, you see the estimated carryover balance from our prior year, or from the current year rather, 2075, and then you see the cash reserve balance applied from above, and we're showing a total projected cash balance of $450,000. I'd like to get that up to at some point 575. It'd be really good of us to have two months operating expenses in the ETMA cash reserve. So we'll work towards that over the next year or two.
So you're asking for us to approve this,
the
right?
expenditure, yes.
So are there any questions? Someone want to go
I
ahead?
just wanted, just because I'm not familiar with it, what's the occupancy cost?
The occupancy is our bus yard lease
Okay.
and our mod space. We rent a trailer that we
Yeah.
put on there, so
Okay.
it's mostly our lease and our maintenance of the facility.
Okay, thanks.
Are we on track to change out the buses in January? Is that,
Yes.
okay.
I'm proposing that we try to get the acquisition going in January so that we
Okay.
can get them by spring.
Okay, just wanted to, that was delayed, the maintenance costs on the other buses could increase.
Over the 3 months, you mean the ones that we're trading
Yeah,
in?
yeah.
The cost isn't the problem. It's mostly minor repairs that don't cost a lot of money.
Okay.
What's costing us is the time out of service. The bus is out of service half of the month, if not more. So the downtime, it's just, they're not usable to us because of the parts have to be ordered from another country, which we did not know when they were purchased. So it's not so much the cost
So,
as the
so
time.
if the new buses was delayed, there would be
Right.
a significant impact on that, what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Any, okay.
Just one more question. What's the means by which you'd want to get the target increase to 575 for the cash reserves?
So when we forecast next year's budget, we'll have a chance in early 2016 to propose the levy amount for the next year for the PBID.
Okay.
So if the board proposes an increase of any kind, 2, 3, 4%, we would apply some of that increased revenue to the cash, not only to replenish what wasn't, what we didn't collect from the prior year, but also to further cushion our reserve budget.
And if we didn't do that through, for example, a PBID increase, are there line items in this budget that could be discretionary in your view?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they're all discretionary in that we could cut back service, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
Not do a 50%
And we could-
increase,
Exactly.
something like that?
Yeah.
change the fleet
Right.
replacement strategy.
Right.
Okay. So we can get to that cushion through
pay grade Bowen less,
Right.
things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think anything in here, we have the chance to reduce service if we need to, if we don't have the financial means of maintaining it. Selling vehicles if need be, that sort of thing. Not acquiring as many vehicles, being a little bit more conservative with our fleet acquisition. So yes, there are definitely ways.
Okay.
So what's the revenue shortfall from the unenforced collection? Is there any way that could be encouraged to be collected?
So it's been an ongoing discussion.
Well, I can
over the
speak
years.
to that.
Yeah.
And do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Cindy Montero. I'm with the city of Emeryville.
So we met recently with Cindy and the city manager and the city attorney, and this was a discussion that predated them, but they've continued the discussion. They have the ability to influence the school district to pay, and we are hoping that that will occur. The other big non-payers are AC Transit. I mean, these aren't big, the feds with the post office, very tiny amounts of money. The real big dollars are school district and AC Transit, right? Well,
Right.
AC Transit's really
Not
not
even.
very big
No,
because the
it's
building
20,000.
isn't very big. It's a
Right.
big parking lot, right? So of the 75, how much is the school district? Half?
Between 20 and 25,000.
Are there any other big, or all these tiny
They're
little
all
ones?
pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, the school district is the largest of the three, but.
Right. So we may have headway there. You know, I don't think the city is imagining suing AC Transit, and we do, at least we're getting something from them, right? I mean, that wasn't sort of a swap, there's no formal understanding.
Right.
Any other people you think could surprise us and pay? Does that answer your question? Any other questions? If not, do I have someone who wants to move approval of the budget?
I'll move to approve the budget.
And a second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Amendment 1 to the Shuttle Operations and Maintenance Agreement with MV Transportation. This item was brought to the board last month and was tabled for this meeting. There was some question as to whether there's a termination clause in the agreement should the TMA's funding be compromised at any time. And at the time, I was pretty confident there was, but I'd rather come back to you with the specific language which is included in the agreement, second page of the agreement, and is highlighted in yellow. And essentially, the language does allow TMA, and if need be, if the funds are not appropriated for the next succeeding year or only appropriated for a portion of the year, the agreement will terminate at the end of the term for which funds are appropriated. So the UTMA has some safeguard there for allowing the contract to terminate. We're proposing a 2-year extension to MV's agreement, and they have furnished us with a new cost proposal, which I went through at the last meeting, but can kind of briefly go through again. There's tables in the staff report that I've attached that kind of summarize the cost increases from the prior year. I should note that there was an assumption of MV when they initially proposed on this project that there would be all new drivers starting out for the Emery-Go-Round, and that was not the case. The Emery-Go-Round drivers all stayed on from the prior operator and were transferred over to MV, a good portion of them. I would say, Gina, would you say like 80% of the drivers stayed on the service?
Yes.
So the cost to MV, the labor costs were much higher than they anticipated, so they actually were losing money on this contract for several years. So they have updated their wage structure to be more aligned with what the current operator wages are. And that's why you see some of these kind of jumps in increases to this year. We've also encouraged MV to hire somebody to support Gina with the operations management, given the fact that we're going to be increasing service. And this woman is busy constantly, all day long, answering 3 different phones at one given time. So she definitely needs some support. And so they went ahead and added that cost in there as well.
Anything else to tell us, Ronnie?
I think that's it, unless people have questions.
Any questions? Gene, I have a question.
Yes.
Ronnie and we have collectively just, thanked you. So you obviously got a good grade, but would you give some feedback to us and grade us? And how are we a good counterparty, and how could we be better, or what can we do to make the whole thing work effectively in this next 2 years?
Actually, you guys have been a great group. Ronnie, Mary, and Karen have been very supportive. Anytime there's any issues, they're right on it. So I thank the ladies greatly. They have been a wonderful support. So everything is working fine.
What do you think the biggest challenges will be in these next 2 years?
Traffic. Definitely traffic.
You can't fix that.
We can't. We just hope and pray that everybody is understanding that there are certain roadblocks that prevent us from being on time at periods. But I have a great team. We all work together and reconstructing and getting us back on time. We all do the best of our abilities. It works out pretty good.
Any other questions? Does someone want to move the recommendation that Ronnie has made? I will second it.
Thank
All in
you.
favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, that's passed.
Fantastic. Okay, great. We're going to move on to the the Emery-Go-Round service test results. I just need that laptop over here though, so I can control the presentation. Is there a way to get it here? I'm going to have a hard time trying to go get your arm that far.
You want to just put it here? Do it right there.
I could, but I think you can probably make it stretch. And then is this all set up to go? Yeah, it's on. Okay, we're good. You might. Oh, just the front ones. Okay, looking back. That's really good. Bear with me, sorry. Can't type, because everyone's watching me.
Hey, Ronnie, can I mention one thing?
Sure.
This might just be an old form, but these things that it's still shown as the chair.
This is actually, we noticed that, she actually called, this is the original agreement, we're not asking you to sign the
Yeah, right,
agreement.
yeah.
We're asking the amendment approval.
Yeah.
The reason why I have the unsigned version is because it was electronic and I was
Yeah.
easily able to highlight it. so.
No, that's fine.
But thank you for catching that.
I already did.
Okay. And, Miss Mary, where is the presentation on here? Okay, let me get the tool out, sorry you guys. No number should be, maybe you thought it was that. That would have been on here as well. Yeah, thank you. Oh, here it is. Oh, is there one?
Looks like it's right here.
How many people, that's what I thought was not there. Come on. There we go. All right.
Okay.
What does it take to get there?
Exactly. I would use mine, but mine doesn't have the port needed to do that, so. Okay. All right, this is frustrating. Okay.
It's
Okay.
flashy.
It'll probably fill up the screen more.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who weren't at the last meeting, I did go through some proposed service changes. I revisited some of the, I revisited some of the options that were previously presented early in 2014 by Karen Pierce, and then also had some kind of proposed options of my own that Gina and I have both kind of discussed over time. I'll go through those actually. Get that.
Put it a little closer. Just shove it.
Yeah, shove it up closer. No, you need to go closer because there you go. Okay.
Put something on the right side to pick it up a little. Like a book or something, piece of paper.
All right. Just stand there and hold it. Just kidding, Mary.
That's what I get paid for.
Just kidding.
No, it's too high.
Okay.
A little crooked is fine.
That's fine, okay.
Oh, my goodness.
You guys will get the gist. Okay, there you go.
We tried it without
There should be some fishy.
Here, try this.
Yeah,
try the binder.
Try the binder.
Yeah.
Put the binder,
There you go.
and then you can use the legs on the.
Yeah.
Getting closer.
Right.
We're getting closer,
Getting
getting a
there.
nice flat surface. I know, the whole thing goes unplugged. Okay.
Got a cell phone somewhere.
That's good enough.
Yeah,
Right there.
that's good, yeah. This is like the dinosaur age.
Okay, yeah. Don't touch it. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, just a recap, review of the service level evaluation objectives. We were aiming to increase capacity in overly crowded areas, improve route efficiency. And the issues identified was we have significant overcrowding during the peak commute period. And we've had complaints about long travel times at the northern end of the service area and long routes, which cause challenges with schedule adherence during high traffic periods. Proposed changes were to increase service during the commute period by providing 2 additional vehicles, provide more direct
Which are
service.
in the budget.
Which are in the budget. Yeah. Provide more direct service to the north end of the area, service area to reduce crowding. This was splitting the routes in high density areas of Shell Mound and the Hollis route. And balancing resources to reduce unnecessary, we want to reduce unnecessary redundancy in service. So at the last meeting, the board directed staff to conduct some field testing, which we've done. Thank you, Gina. Gina actually did a lot of field testing on her own. Our goal in the field testing was to determine the most efficient routing options, identify travel times on most efficient routing option, confirm required resources needed for implementation, and confirm frequency of service. The North Hollis field test results. In all of the previously proposed routing options, the only one that we're recommending change to is the North Hollis. Gina discovered that South San Pablo, we were trying to access the north part of, I'm going to show you the map here. We had previously accessed the north end of Hollis using San Pablo, which is totally congested and not a good idea. So Gina's proposing that we shift that over to the freeway, which we've done in this map here, and that we cross over the Powell Street Bridge and then turn right onto Hollis and then loop around Sanford there, so that we serve that stop over there, stop number 2 by Petaluma. And then we would proceed up to the Amtrak station and then north of the route.
But you're proposing on that one that the bus go on the highway?
Yes.
Or under?
Yes, just as the Watergate Express does.
And is that because it was faster?
Yes.
You found it to be faster?
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's reliable during traffic?
I did it during commute hours and it was pretty
still
efficient.
moves.
Yes.
Yeah. Faster than San Pablo. It's not
Right.
moving very fast, but it's faster than San Pablo.
Faster, yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like
That's their team.
almost twice as far, or at least 50% farther than the San Pablo, or?
It is, but.
But it's that much faster?
The traffic is moving,
Yeah.
I think we saved about 4 minutes.
Right,
3 or
yeah.
4 minutes, yeah.
And Gina and I talked about, we, as things evolve and change, we'll continue looking at other options. I mean, quite frankly, as long as we're making it to that first stop, it doesn't really matter how we get there. And if traffic, for whatever reason, was really bad, the drivers can always access the northern end of the route another way if they need to. So
Go off.
go off route,
Yeah.
exactly. So we have some flexibilities there. But the standard routing will be using the freeway. We are also proposing that we remove one loop around 65th and Vallejo, including the removal of the Vallejo Street bus stop and relocation of one stop on 65th. This will help by showing you the map here. So you'll see here at the northern end, right here, we're proposing that that loop be eliminated. The reason for that is we did conduct ridership, ridership screening, and we determined that we, on average, pick up less than 2 passengers there per trip. We also received complaints from this area. There's a lot of residential in that area, and they complained that our buses are too loud going through their neighborhood. And there's a little bit of a safety concern. This is a high, 66th Street is a high pedestrian and bike facility. And our buses are frequently have access blocked or at least slowed down significantly because of either pedestrian traffic or because of the street is so narrow that trucks will generally block it if like a FedEx is there. So it's not a very efficient use of our time to run that loop. And the walking distance from the Vallejo stop is less than a quarter mile. So it's very walkable to just walk to the new proposed stop, which is right here on 65th in front of the Starbucks if you're familiar with the area. They can grab a coffee now and get on the Emery-Go-Round. So that is the one change that we're recommending to the Hollis route from the previous proposed option. The estimated frequency for service would be 10 to 15 minutes, mostly 10 minutes, but we do have areas where we have to kind of run the schedule and there's a 15-minute wait. The estimated savings time and travel time is 3 to 5 minutes, which is pretty good. Let's see here. Already covered that. The South Hollis field test results. We have no changes to the proposed commute service. For those of you that weren't here at the last meeting, my proposal is just to trunk the line. We have a little bit of redundancy from the north and South Hollis, and some connection options here in the Powell Street area where 59th and Sanford are. So they can, if people want to go from the north to the south or the south to the north, they can make those transfers at those locations. And again, this is only during commute period. The routes will stand as is during non-commute period. The North Shell Mound route, again, proposing that we use the freeway and we access the north end of the route that way. We would exit Shell Mound Powell, turn right, and then turn right onto Christie Avenue right here, loop around, and then serve the north end of the route. And then we would hop back on the freeway. The estimated service frequency for this is 10 to 15 minutes, which is similar to what we provide today on the Shell Mound Powell route. The estimated savings in travel time is more than 5 minutes. So that's a significant improvement to that area. People are commuting from that area. The South Shell Mound Powell route will serve the south end of Shell Mound Street. We'll loop up, we'll serve the towers, and every other run I'm proposing to serve the peninsula. Currently, let's see here, the peninsula is served by both Watergate Express and the Shell Mound Powell route. We have a bus arriving down that corridor every 2 to 8 minutes during peak period. That's a lot of buses going down that area. The average passenger boardings per trip on the Shell Mound Powell route during this commute period for all three bus stops combined is less than 4. I had no changes to my previously proposed routing option. The estimated frequency for all stops, excluding the peninsula, is 10 to 15 minutes. The peninsula stops, which is west of the towers, would be a 20 to 25 minute frequency during this peak period. And the Watergate Express would still serve this regularly, every 15 minutes. Okay, so the non-commute service period, I'm maintaining frequency on the Hollis route from 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm eliminating, proposing that we do eliminate that 65th Street Vallejo loop. This will save about 5 minutes on the route, 3 to 5 minutes on the route. The Shell Mountain Powell route, again, maintaining frequency of 15 to 20 minutes during the non-commute period, and I have no changes to the existing route structure. Kind of a thought that we've been batting around is having a comment period on this. We've received, the last time we had a major route change, which was several years ago, some of our riders wanted to weigh in on the changes that we were making. So we're recommending that we have a 2-week comment period from Emery-Go-Round patrons to collect rider input on the proposed changes. We would do this through our website and bus postings on our shuttle vehicles, and possibly link to the City of Emeryville website.
And that comment period would be sufficient in your mind, 2 weeks?
I would allow 2. They could allow longer if they wanted, but.
So Ronnie, let me ask, I mean, the desire to do this that was expressed at the last meeting was, we have a new source of funds that's supposed to improve service.
Right.
So you're trying to figure out how to improve service with the extra money, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And the timing of that rollout is really just because the extra money theoretically begins January 1? I mean, because I'm sort of going to your question, like what are the detriments to having a longer opportunity for people to comment? 2 weeks, there's holidays, I mean, it just seems like there's benefit for greater opportunity.
We could, especially as we move into a new PBID that has more public representation, or,
Right.
Just want to make sure we're getting the right voices.
Right. We can definitely increase the comment period. I have no tie to a 2-week. We could make it a 4-week if we wanted to. The only pressing item on this is really, we could implement temporary changes, but we are over capacity right now, especially on Hollis route. I mean, we're trying to do the best we can to maintain service, and we've thrown out extra buses when needed, when we have overcrowding occurring, but we do have an issue right now. We're getting over capacity. So I'd hate to push this out too long, but we have more time before the next board meeting when we would actually possibly take action, or in January, I could open this up for comment until that time.
Okay, so that's your driver, is to fix the overcapacity
Right.
issue and not inconvenience riders.
Right.
We would just need the summary reasons for those changes, proposed changes, to be part of any solicitations of public input.
Right.
And then would you want the member companies represented here, and then the rest of the membership to push this out to employee bases?
Absolutely.
Or anything?
Yeah. The more comment and feedback we can get, the
So
better.
you'd equip us with.
Yeah. I'm
a
going to
link or
prepare some
something
type
like
of
that.
good summary of what's happening with all the routes and why we're making the changes we are, why we're proposing the changes that we would like to make. Make it very clear so that these riders can review it. It'll be on our website. So we're going to have like a posting saying we have new proposed changes. Please visit our website. Otherwise, we're going to have all this material on the buses and then people throw it away, and it's not very sustainable, environmentally friendly. So we're going to direct them to the website. So what we'll have on the website is an area where we'll have all this material, and they can look at it route by route if they want.
The drivers are going to need to be well equipped as well, because I can imagine, particularly with this, because I see it all the time now with Hollis and South Hollis, the amount of time they have to spend explaining the differences between every
Right.
day
Exactly.
to the same people, the differences between the routes. So
Right.
they're going to have to be prepared to be very patient with people
Right.
with this.
And we'll have route guides. I think that will help also. I think we've got, our route guides are somewhat, do we still have the route guides on our buses, or are they?
We don't have any more.
Are they all gone? Okay. So we'll have route guides, we'll have maybe possibly handouts. The best we can do to inform the riders ahead of time of what's going on, the better. But there's always going to be those people who don't ride it every day, and they're going to have questions. So it's just educating the drivers on the changes and making sure they are informing the public appropriately, and being patient with the
And being
public.
patient.
We understand.
How will this be signed on the buses? Because all of a sudden, where it just said Hollis, now it's going to be north-south, and it would be, that's gonna be easily missed, maybe,
Right, well, we have some fancy LED signage on all of our buses now, so it's gonna be a lot easier for us. We've got a sign on the side, a sign on the front, a sign on the back, and we have a way to easily get in there to the system and make the change. So it'll say North Hollis, all over the bus.
And are we changing ridership behavior? Do we need a change communications program so that riders know the routes are changing?
That would just be by way of us informing people on our buses. So people are riding it, having like a 2 or 3 week posting period where we are alerting people that, you know, heads up, the routes are changing. Once we approve it, we won't do that. We're gonna have a comment period. Then once the board approves the plan, we would begin implementation. Implementation takes anywhere from 3 to 4 months.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have plenty of time to say, we've got some upcoming changes effective this date, and Gina's got to go make sure she's got a whole new job bid to run through her union process. So there's quite a bit to accomplish to make this change. So we'll have plenty of time to inform riders and.
I think you need to adopt a formal process every time you change any routes, no matter what it is. And you probably should include a community meeting. I mean, give the folks an opportunity to give you some feedback. They may not see some of the paperwork.
Well, a community meeting is a challenge because we have riders who don't live in the community. So I think, you know, advertising in the buses and electronically is the best way to reach everybody. I would encourage us to allow the comment to occur almost through the end of the year. I mean, I don't believe we can give enough time for feedback that we can use at our next meeting. So why not open it wider, you know, through year end? That gives you some time to sort of assemble it so you can present it to us in January. I get that the implementation, you know, nothing's kind of come down the railroad really fast.
Right.
But if we're having problems, and it may be that the comments cause us to say, well, these route changes all seem fine, let's implement those, and this one really has a lot of questions, right? Because it sounds like the real stress is in Hollis, and, you know, we want to reduce stress wherever it is, but only in a way that our riders generally believe is good.
Right, exactly. And it's also a better balance. The traffic on Shellmound is outrageous. I mean, and our long route during the peak period is causing it to be even harder to maintain because we're going all this long route. If we have a split route, there's a better chance that we'll be able to adhere to schedule better, even during those traffic periods, high traffic periods.
Also in Hollis is high traffic as well. Last night when I was going home, the traffic was from the freeway almost to Powell. So it really delays us. So the north and south will be beneficial.
Right.
It might be that we should consider also just some kind of advisory to, like at a city council meeting, or using local media, something that gives people an idea that we're trying to fix a problem.
Right.
And help them build awareness.
Right, okay.
Do you have a mechanism for doing that?
Well, I can definitely work with Cindy on kind of how to get it through at least the community of Emeryville. And then also
they have a website. I don't know if you all get this.
Yeah.
They send out a sort of email letter, and that's a good.
But a broader method would be 511.org, which we also have coordination with. So we have
there's also the Evil Eye.
And the Evil, yeah. We can go to the blogs, the Emeryville blogs.
Definitely recommend that.
Other questions or comments?
And just an observation kind of thing. One of the things is that I'd be cautious of the route changes just because the Emery-Go-Round is really complicated right now. It's like what route goes where. So just keep that in mind, that if there's any way possibly to, as you're doing right now, is provide more buses on the peak ridership times, maybe that might be a better solution than adding or changing the routes and adding more complexity. I'm not sure that it is or isn't, but just an observation that I've made is, like you've observed, is like there's so many people that go up to the driver on the bus, and it's like, where does this bus go? Where does it go? How do I get to where I'm going? And that kind of also ties back to the wayfinding at the BART station and the smart signs, and providing better information to things, I think would also be very helpful.
And I will also work with BART to, we used to have signage at the BART station. They took it down when they did the redevelopment. So possibly having a sign case, put it in the shelters that shows our routes and maps, you know, on a route map.
Yeah.
We used to have the route map up there, but that was taken down. And I think we could probably talk them into putting that back up again and designate Emery-Go-Round.
So it's a
for
good
space.
opportunity, update the routes, update the communications.
Updated, right, exactly. All the signage, all the bus stop signage at the same time. I mean, this is all gonna, you know, we've been holding off on these updates for a while, over a year. We planned on doing this increase actually at the beginning of last year. But given our unsureness about the funding of Emery-Go-Round, we kind of held everything off. So we're looking for kind of cleanup and better awareness of our service and the routes that we have. I would say that the split is needed for multiple reasons. I think we get a lot of complaints at how long it takes to get from the north end of Shell Mound or the north end of Hollis to the station, and it's 30 minutes sometimes.
So frequency won't change that, right?
No, frequency won't change that. It's just you're still sitting on a bus going through the entire city at every stop. So that is our driving reason for splitting it again during this commute period, because we also know that from the Fair and Pierce study, we have a high volume of commute traffic. And people are going to the BART station. We know that. So why take them through the whole city, you know, at every stop? Let's put some focused, you know, kind of direct service in areas that make sense, where we have the high ridership.
I have one more comment, and that's to know ultimately where people are coming from and going to, because one of the things that I would really like to see more engagement in AC Transit is the Transbay bus.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, people have the option of hopping on an Emery-Go-Round, going 20 minutes to the BART station to go another 20 minutes to go to San Francisco, when there's a Transbay bus that runs every 30 minutes right now, and they're looking at changing that to 20.
Right.
Should we put some focus on coordinating more with AC Transit to have that Transbay bus service better serve Emeryville, so we can relieve the loading on the Emery-Go-Round?
Right. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think our ridership problem is not in the reverse commute direction, it's in the commute direction. So people are taking Emery-Go-Round to go to the MacArthur BART station. Our service is being used in a bi-directional commute traffic, but one far surpasses the other. I mean, our commute coming in, our problem is really ridership from BART in the morning to Emeryville, and then the reverse in the evening. So we definitely have.
Well, and that's because the working population
It is larger than
much,
that.
much bigger.
Exactly. 50,000 to whatever, 10,000, I think, so.
I was just going to say that I think that the nice thing about this particular tweaking is that it's something that can easily be reversed, because a lot of times things like this, it sounds great the way you have it set up, and it probably will be great, but if it turns out in 2 or 3 months that it isn't working quite the way. I mean, we're going to run into problems around this time of year, is during the thing around the holidays with all the shopping centers.
Absolutely.
At night, the traffic is it's just a nightmare. You just can't get anywhere.
Right.
But the nice thing is that if you do run into problems or find little areas that isn't working, that it's not something that can't be changed.
Exactly.
So
Right.
that's something
Yeah,
I think
if
is a real
it
benefit.
turned out that we wouldn't launch this before January for sure, because I think the holidays is
Or
already.
when you say launch, there's launching an implementation.
Exactly,
That takes more.
exactly. Launch the implementation until after the first of the year. Just so you know, right now, the weekends are crazy traffic. Gina said that the driver took 2 hours to complete the Shell Mound this weekend. 2 hours.
It is
to go
extremely
around
busy
the
out
city.
there.
So just let everyone know that if you're coming to Emeryville.
Sales are up.
Nope.
And actually, I didn't believe it, but I had 2 of my road supervisors out there actually doing the route, and it was extremely, I was like, are you serious?
Right, yeah.
I didn't believe it,
2 hours,
but
2
they
hours.
said, they confirmed it.
The city public works director, I did contact, Maurice, and what's going on out there. There was some signal issues they were having, so that possibly could have added to the problem. But there's just going to be high volume of holiday, shopping traffic and.
How about they get rid of Black Friday? Is that happening?
I know.
Retailers?
We're open on Thursday, so feel free to come. I'll be here.
But it's also, just something to kind of, we've talked about this for years. The infrastructure in Emeryville is not going to support, the traffic. I mean, they've got to, having some type of transit access that benefits the transit usage over the vehicle usage would be fantastic. And
So-
having bus-only lanes or something of that nature would be
think
Are
on
you-
Saturday
Oh, go
when you
ahead.
get busy, you could go down Powell's Market and market over to the park, because Stanford isn't busy on Saturday.
So are you monitoring all these like F-line changes and stuff that AC is doing and how that's gonna impact specifically your heavy traffic areas like
Right.
Belmont?
So I've definitely seen their changes that they're proposing. And I do think the Transbay service is going to be, I think it's going to be a great complement, because I think people that are wanting to get to the city are going to have a much faster option to access the city through the Transbay, line. Some of my comments on their changes were the redundancy with Emery-Go-Round. So they do have a MacArthur line, one going through the MacArthur station into I think the Towers area, or maybe it was recommended the Towers area, but it's redundant with Emery-Go-Round. And my concern is that with Emery-Go-Round there, I'm not sure how much ridership they're going to get if they're following the same path of travel. And how can we maximize AC Transit service to complement Emery-Go-Round service and provide service where we don't currently, which is really that direct, to San Francisco, to and from San Francisco. Because the riders that are catching BART to go to the city are actually backtracking going to MacArthur. They could go to West Oakland, they could go to the Transbay line. There's other options, I think, and I think that there are some changes that AC is making that are going to complement our system better.
And I think Betsy made a very good point. We have the ability to adjust to that.
Right. Yeah, we can conform to the changes. And John and I are actually meeting after this meeting to talk about kind of, he has a vision for what he sees with AC Transit and the Emery-Go-Round, kind of how they can better balance each other, and AC Transit carries some of the brunt as well to relieve some of the Emery-Go-Round.
So coming back to the realities at hand,
Yes.
are you just looking for this feedback, or do you need us?
I am looking for the feedback. I would like to know
you recommended a comment period.
Right.
I've recommended we do it through year end.
Okay.
Does anyone have an objection with that?
No, I agree with the.
And then we can
necessary.
consider the results of that at our January meeting.
Okay.
Do you need any other?
No. I think as long as there are no other comments or questions on the proposed route.
Melinda asked you to share all the information with us so we can disseminate it also.
Right.
Yeah, if I can get a copy of the presentation, for example, I can start to share this information. But we don't want to share any of this proposed information right now, is what we're saying with our employee bases. We just want to share it with management, just so they know that this is underway. But when you have a survey of some sort, that we'd like to share with the people who are using it in our companies.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to launch the service, actually having whatever proposed service plan we can implement. It would be nice to do a survey 6 months after or 3 months after.
Yeah.
We haven't done a survey in a while. We haven't had many changes, and quite frankly, if we launched a survey now, I'm not sure we would get great feedback because we're not really adhering to a schedule. So we would like to implement these changes and then get rider feedback.
Well, I think what Melinda was saying about survey is you're asking for feedback up front.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you go in
Yes.
there
Yeah.
acknowledging.
Right.
We know there's a problem. Here's the proposal to relieve this.
What do you think?
And so it really starts to pre-inform people.
Right.
As well as services survey.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, got what you need, Ronnie?
I do, thank
Thank
you.
you.
That's the last item on our agenda, unless we have suggestions and.
Well, I do,
requests.
because we have this thing.
Oh, thank you, yes.
I want to report, last meeting, we heard tangentially that the city had again sort of delayed their approach to helping us with our governance. And so I've met with as I said, the Cindy Montero's the assistant city manager and the city manager, and tried to clarify some things. Ronnie's met with them separately, but so here's what I can share with you. The new PBID effectively had a whole bunch of things that this process that the city's going to want to go through to feel like they've gotten good community feedback. But ultimately, they sign a contract with us to give us the money that's collected through the PBID, which they're sort of collecting. I mean, the county assessor's collecting it, but so that contract with us, and that's how we get the PBID monies there. This new PBID said that as part of that contract, they need to effectively determine for themselves that our governance is reasonable and fair. So that's sort of, it has to pass a sniff test. It doesn't say they decide what it is. It says we decide what it is, they just have to make sure that that's okay. So that all the people who voted think that the city's looking at that, right? That was the point of it. So even the city didn't kind of understand that. They thought they're supposed to figure it all out, and that's just wrong. So before the vote, they hadn't done any of this consensus building. We've talked about that. And so we talked here at this level about what we might do to try to make it more reflective of what the possible PBID, which is now the real PBID, payers looked like. And we had said here that, you know, we had generally recommended, without voting on it, that reconstituting the board to eliminate the chamber as a member, add another business member, which is, you know, sometimes gets referred to as small business, but they don't have to be small. They're just not the highest 7 payers. And adding a residential seat to the one that's there and widening the existing seat to reflect the wider group types of residential payers. Because prior it was just, you know, people who paid directly, like homeowners associations or people. So we talked about that. Exposed it to the city council. Some of those members of the council came here and said to us, we feel like that's a reason, you know, that seems good to us, but we're going to have to go through our process. But they gave us good feelings, and many of you got outreach from them personally too. So I mean, each one of the 5 told me they felt pretty good about this, but they have to go through their process. What we established with the city is they felt it indeed was best and appropriate that we change our governance the way we think is appropriate, and then let them sniff it and decide. Now, they are probably going to form a group of people to help them do that and have some public hearings and so forth, and that's fine. They're just going to do that on their own. So I brought back these changes to the bylaws that we'd seen before but not voted on, and I'm going to recommend that we consider these. I mean, I'm not asking for vote now because we didn't expose this. You know, we need to put it out in the public and on the agenda. But so for the next meeting, I'm going to recommend this, and we can have a discussion about it now. We can have a discussion about it at the next meeting. But that was just really coming back to you to talk about the governance. So if we made these changes, then we would need also to decide whether we populate those new seats ourselves on a temporary basis. Because all these things will get, you know, everyone gets reseated at the annual meeting, which is what, usually summertime, May. And between now and May, one of the things when we put this in front of the city, we had suggested to the city that they figure out how to pick the residential representatives. But they may not figure that out, we don't know. But at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that the money that new payers are putting into the till happens in January, and that we generally thought those extra voices would be helpful and not wait 3 or 6 months for the city to sniff it, which they had said 6 months. Now they think it might be 3, but I don't feel comfortable relying on that. And so to wait for them, but that's something we would also decide is, should we fill them temporarily? We would be creating a new business member. There's a method for that person to be elected at the annual meeting. We could fill that temporarily too. So those are the issues. Do we want to make these changes? One, and if we do and create new seats, do we want to fill them temporarily? I'm sort of a supporter of, let's get the more voices that are more reflective of the people who are paying in, right? But that's me, and I'm not sort of formally doing anything with this, just bringing it to your attention.
I have a public comment. I mean, there is nothing fair about an assigned seat on the board. It's not fair. It's not fair to membership. It's not fair to anybody. You know, you're really all business members, and the ones that pay the higher amount have an assigned seat. Well, that's not fair. So that's what I think. So
that the high, can you clarify that?
No, it should be elected. You should be elected by the membership. The business members pay the majority of the money, and they have one elected seat on the board. It's not proportional representation, and it's just not fair. I mean, you don't even get to choose who else is at the table. You know, you're a major payer. Everybody should have that right, I think.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Cindy said that they had actually recommended that you go ahead and fill the seats, and I mean, I don't know that it's such a bad idea to just put somebody in temporary with the understanding that once it was actually firmed up with the city, which hopefully will happen in a couple of months. I mean, I know John is interested in sitting on it. He's got a lot of, I know he'd have a lot of support from the city, so.
Well, so
it's
I'm
really
glad
good.
that Cindy commented that to you. When I met with them, they said, we need to think about that.
Well, I asked her.
But I believe it.
said
I
that
believe she said that. But
she said, well, our feeling is, you know, we suggested that they just go ahead and appoint people. And,
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they are going to be reconvening the Emery-Go-Round task force, although Jennifer and I were at the coffee with the city manager yesterday, and it is not going to be called the Emery-Go-Round task force, and it isn't necessarily going to be the same members. They're going to be reaching out to stakeholders, and I'm not sure exactly, like, Jen wasn't here, IKEA did, I mean, Bay Street didn't have a representative on the initial task force. Now I imagine they probably would by Jen. So that was going to happen last week. There was going to be a letter, and there was going to be a meeting in the first week in December, but now they're working on it more thoroughly, and so.
well, so what you're suggesting sounds to me like more reason for us to decide what's the right thing to do, and let them take their time to think, do we agree?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already heard from the people who ultimately will vote that they thought this made sense, but they are going to think about it again in a different way with more voices. Great.
Yeah.
But we certainly don't have any indication that this was wildly crazy off, and we talked about it before here. So that's why I'm bringing it back, and we will have that formally on the agenda next meeting. Any other questions or comments? And then we have room for any suggestions or requests from any board members.
No, just that I think it's good for the city to have that task force so that they really do understand and can do things like bridge effectively to AC Transit discussions. So it just seems like a good thing for them to pursue.
Okay, if not, then we're adjourned, and our next meeting, December 17, here at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay.